of islet of Langerhans present in the pancreas. How will you classify diabetes? Basically, diabetes are classified into three main types. Type 1 diabetes, that is insulin dependent diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, non-insulin dependent diabetes. And there is an association between diabetes mellitus and periodontal disease. Now, both of these diseases have a relatively high incidence in the general population. That is, diabetes has incidence of 1.6% and periodontitis has incidence of 14%. This relationship between periodontitis and diabetes is bidirectional. That is, the periodontitis is influenced by diabetes and diabetes also influences the progression of destruction of periodontium.
अम्मी तुम बोलते मेरे को मेरा लेके चला.
Please mute your video. Yeah. So type 1 diabetes is insulin dependent diabetes. It is immune mediated or idiopathic. And type 2 is non-insulin dependent diabetes. And type 3 is hyperglycemia secondary to other diseases. That is gestational diabetes, which commonly occurs during pregnancy. These are other types of diabetes. Just you should know, this is not of great importance. Genetic defects in beta cell function of islet of Langerhans, genetic defects in insulin action, and pancreatic diseases like pancreatitis, neoplasia, cystic fibrosis, trauma, and pancreatopathy. Infections in certain infections like cytomegalo infections and congenital rubella, drug-induced, drug-induced endocrinopathies, and other genetic syndromes. Now, what is responsible for decrease in insulin secretion and increased blood level glucose? Now, food consumption leads to breakdown of carbohydrates in GIT and absorption of simple sugars into the bloodstream, which ultimately leads to increased blood glucose level. And there is, if the blood glucose level is increased, then there is a secretion of insulin from the beta cells in the pancreas. And what happens in type 1 diabetes? This beta cells, there is a destruction of the beta cells, and it ultimately leads to type 1 diabetes, which is more common in young adults and children. Approximately 5 to 10% of the population is affected with type 1 diabetes. Now, this insulin binds to target cell receptors and allow entry of the glucose into the cell. That is, if there is a peripheral cell resistance or peripheral tissue resistance, then it leads to type 2 diabetes, which is caused due to insulin resistance at the receptors and post-receptor level, which ultimately leads to participants. Which ultimately leads to decreased blood glucose levels. So this is mainly type 1 diabetes is due to destruction of beta cells, and type 2 diabetes is due to peripheral resistance of the tissues to insulin. Now, what are the signs and symptoms of diabetes? Yeah, so this is the differentiation between type 1 and type 2. Age of onset, type 1 is less than 30 years, type 2 is generally in adulthood. More common body type is thin or normal structure in case of type 1, and in type 2, the individuals are obese. In case of family history, type 1 diabetic persons have more common familial history as compared to type 2. And type 1, there is abrupt onset. Pathogenesis, there is autoimmune destruction of beta cell of Langerhans, and type 2, there is impaired insulin secretion or insulin resistance. Now, susceptibility to ketoacidosis is high. There are high chances that the patient has ketoacidosis or may suffer from coma during if the patient is having type 1 diabetes, and type 2 chances are low. Now treatment includes diet and exercise in all type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Now coming to type 1, the onset of type 1 diabetes is rather abrupt when compared to type 2. And the classical signs and symptoms of diabetes are polyuria, polydipsia, and polyphagia. And there is predisposition to infection. Periodontitis is the sixth complication of diabetes mellitus. Coming to type 2 diabetes, because type 2 diabetes can remain undiagnosed for many years, these patients may have significant diabetic complication even at the time of initial diagnosis. These patients usually do not develop ketoacidosis, and the plasma insulin levels are normal to high. Glucose levels are elevated in the blood because there is a peripheral resistance of tissue to insulin. Now coming to blood testing, fasting blood sugar normal level is less than 110 mg per dl. If it is more than or equal to 126 milligrams per dl, then the patient has diabetes. 2-hour postprandial plasma glucose, if it is greater than 200 mg per dl, so the patient is diabetic. So first, if patient gives medical history of diabetes, then you should go for blood testing. Normal postprandial is less than 140 mg per dl. So during your scaling and route planning, if the blood glucose level is more than 200 milligrams per dl, you should temporarily postpone the treatment or any surgical procedure. See, not recommended for routine clinical use if the plasma glucose level at 2 hours is greater than 200 milligrams per dl. If it is 140 to 200 milligrams per dl, then you can treat the patient under antibiotic coverage because the chances of infections are more in diabetes. This is glycosylated hemoglobin assay, which will give you a result of around 3 months. 4 to 6% is normal. If the patient is less than 7%, that is good diabetic control. 7 to 8% is moderate diabetic control, and greater than 8% is suggested to improve the diabetic control. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what is glycosylated hemoglobin assay? This test basically measures the amount of glucose bound to the hemoglobin molecule on red blood cells. This glucose binds irreversible to the hemoglobin to form glycosylated hemoglobin, which remains in the red blood cell from 30 to 90 days. That means this is more accurate as compared to your fasting blood glucose and postprandial blood glucose. Which test? HbA1c. It will give more accurate results if you are starting with any surgical procedures or scaling route planning. Now, this process is an example of AGE formation. That means AGE means glucose will bind irreversible to the hemoglobin and will remain in the blood for 30 to 90 days. Now, the classic complications of diabetes are diabetic retinopathy, neuropathy, nephropathy, atherosclerosis, impaired wound healing, and the sixth main complication is, which was introduced in the year 1993, is periodontal disease. These are all microvascular complications: retinopathy, neuropathy, nephropathy. Macrovascular complications are cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases. Now, how this diabetes is linked to periodontium? Oral manifestations are diminished salivary flow, burning mouth and tongue, and there is enlargement of parotid gland, cheilosis, alterations in the flora of the oral cavity. What does it mean, alterations in oral flora? That means the qualitative changes in microorganisms are more as compared to your quantitative changes. it is predominantly by Candida albicans, an increased rate of dental caries. But this two things, diminished salivary flow and burning mouth and tongue, these are main oral manifestation of diabetes. These all are periodontal changes or gingival changes. There is tendency towards enlarged gingiva, sessile or pedunculated gingival polyps, polypoid gingival proliferations, abscess formation, periodontitis, and loosened teeth. Gingival or periodontal abscess are more common complications of the patient who comes with diabetes. So if you find any patients with your abscess formation, or if the patient gives history of diabetes, then you should get the blood report done. HbBT, CT, TLC, and DLC, fasting blood glucose and postprandial blood sugars. Same periodontal findings are enlarged gingiva, abscess formation, periodontitis. Now these are periodontal findings: severe gingival inflammation, deep periodontal pockets, rapid bone loss. Frequent periodontal abscess often occurs in diabetic patients as compared to non-diabetic patients. Now, this are common complications. This diabetic ketoacidosis is more common in type 1 diabetes, which is more acute as compared to type 2, which is chronic, and the patient is more often obese. At the later age, type 2 diabetes occurs. This is all I have told you. Vascular complications are microvascular and macrovascular. Cardiovascular, cerebrovascular, and non-vascular are infection and poor wound healing. Now, there are factors which contribute to the development of periodontal disease. That is how diabetes is related to destruction of periodontium. First, these all factors are responsible for destruction of the periodontal ligament. That is polymorphonuclear leukocyte function, collagen metabolism and formation of AGEs, infection in patient with diabetes, wound healing, impaired wound healing, and bacterial associations, which I already told you that qualitative bacteria increases as compared to quantitative. There is impaired wound healing and chances of infections are more. That's why you should treat diabetic patient. You should do scaling and route planning under antibiotic coverage. Now, how does PMNs affect or is responsible for destruction of periodontium? Three main functions of polymorphoneutrophils are: they are first line of defense, they are responsible for chemotaxis, adherence, and phagocytosis. So what happens in diabetes? There is impaired chemotaxis, there is impaired adherence, and there is impaired defective phagocytosis. There is diminished preliminary primary defense against periodontal pathogens. That's why neutrophil defects are common in case of diabetes. This is important: advanced glycation end products. Now there is mainly what is responsible for advanced glycation. This end products, they play a central role in diabetic complication. Now affects collagen stability and vascular integrity. Now what happens due to collagen? Due to formation of advanced glycation end products, there is increased cross-linking between the collagen molecule, which reduces the solubility. That is, collagen stays in the tissue for a greater period of time. The regenerative capacity of the collagen is decreased. So there is decreased turnover rate and formation of new collagen is reduced. So due to defective collagen and decreased regenerative capacity, decreased turnover rate, there is destruction of the periodontal group of fibers, ultimately results in destruction of periodontium. That's why accumulated glycation end products, AGE, plays an important role in the formation of periodontitis. This is very important. Formation of accumulated glycation end products, AGE. There is reduced solubility and decreased turnover rate of collagen. Now, how this AGE affects macrophages and endothelial cells. This macrophages, they combine with AGE, and normally macrophages secretes interleukin 1 alpha, 1 beta, tumor necrosis factor alpha. Now what happens if they combines with AGE? It becomes hyper responsive macrophages. So they secrete increased amount of interleukin 1 beta, IGF and tumor necrosis factor alpha, which is ultimately responsible for increase in the synthesis of osteoclast and ultimately leading to destruction of the alveolar bone. So second is hyperresponsiveness of macrophages and monocytes to AGEs. And third is this also combines with endothelial cells and which results in precoagulatory changes, focal thrombosis and vasoconstriction, which ultimately leads to atherosclerosis, right? So three main important functions are decreased turnover rate of collagen, regenerative capacity of the collagen fibers are reduced. Second is they combine with macrophages, hyperresponsiveness of macrophages, increased secretion of interleukin 1 beta, tumor necrosis factor alpha, which results in increased production of osteoclast, ultimately leading to resorption of the alveolar bone. And third is combines with endothelial cells, which leads to precoagulatory changes, that is changes in the intrinsic and extrinsic pathway of inflammation, and ultimately leads to focal thrombosis. Chances of blood clots are more if they combine with the endothelial cells. Now this is flowchart periodontal microflora along with AGE activation, impaired repair of collagen fibers. This results in periodontal microflora, results in exaggerated and sustained inflammation. This both combines and ultimately leads to breakdown of the periodontium. Now how this diabetes affects, this is a flowchart. It results in hyperglycemia, Rankel OPG axis. Rankel OPG is related to your remodeling of the alveolar bone. Now AGE, RAGE axis and oxidative stress. This ultimately leads to increased amount of cytokines. There is a shift, ecological shift in subgingival biofilm. Ecological shift means increase in the amount of qualitative organisms as compared to quantity. This whole thing results in enhanced tissue destruction and impaired tissue repair, which ultimately leads to periodontitis. So main is Rankel OPG axis, formation of AGEs, and ecological shift in subgingival biofilm, which leads to increased formation of cytokines, ultimately resulting in enhanced tissue destruction and impaired tissue repair. Impaired tissue repair is due to formation of AGE, which ultimately leads to periodontitis. So this flowchart is very important. Yeah, infection. Why the chances of infection are more? Because primarily it is due to impaired defense mechanism. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mainly due to impaired
Yes,
defense
sir.
mechanism. That means impaired chemotaxis, phagocytosis, and oxidative stress. There is defects in PMN function and induction of insulin resistance and vascular changes. So that's why the chances of infection are more in patients with diabetes, mainly due to defect impaired polymorphoneutrophil function. How it affects wound healing? Basically due to altered cellular activity, decreased collagen synthesis. So due to glycosylation of existing collagen, there is increased collagenase production and collagen becomes more stable. So there is reduced collagen solubility and delayed remodeling of the wound site. So it affects glycosylation of collagen. So basically due to formation of AGEs, wound healing is affected. That is due to formation of AG, there is decreased collagen synthesis. There is more amount of matured collagen in the tissue, and there is decreased collagen solubility, and due to this, there is delayed remodeling of the wound site. Why there is decreased collagen solubility? Due to cross-linking of the collagen. There is decreased collagen solubility and ultimately results in delayed remodeling of the wound site. So this main complications like this you should remember. Chances of infection are more and wound healing is impaired. Wound healing is impaired due to decreased collagen solubility. Bacterial association, which I told you, change in the environment of the microflora. There is a higher number of specific microorganisms. There is qualitative changes, increase in AA and Capnocytophaga. The proportion of P. gingivalis was reported to be higher in non-insulin dependent diabetes as compared to in patient with periodontitis as compared to insulin dependent. So there is qualitative alteration in the bacterial microflora present in the periodontium. As compared to quantity doesn't increase, but qualitative nature of the bacteria is increased. Now these are mechanisms by which periodontal disease may influence diabetes. Now this is reverse or vice versa. This is how the periodontal disease will influence the patient with diabetes. Now important is there is a bidirectional relationship between diabetes and periodontal disease. That is, if the patient is diabetic, it alters the treatment of the patient, and if the patient is having periodontitis, it alters the blood glucose level. This is reverse slide. That is, if the patient is having acute bacterial and viral infection, that means they have significant higher markers of inflammation in blood, like interleukin-6 fibrinogen in subjects without periodontitis. And due to this higher serum markers, what will happen? The resistance of peripheral tissue to insulin will increase. That means there is peripheral tissue resistance of insulin will increase due to this higher serum markers like IL-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha, C-reactive protein. So there is peripheral resistance, and that's why there will be more chances that your blood glucose level increases. Now periodontal treatment will reduce the inflammation locally and also decrease the serum levels. Ultimately, the insulin resistance will decrease, thereby positively affecting the glycemic control. Understood? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So peripheral tissue resistance will increase in patients with periodontitis due to presence of higher serum markers. So that's why there is a bidirectional relationship between periodontitis and diabetes. Now, coming to treatment, how will you treat the patient with diabetes? Now, patient with well-controlled diabetes mellitus can be treated similarly to non-diabetic patients. Appointment should be short or traumatic. Morning appointments are preferred. And for stressful procedures, the usual drug regimen may be altered. Use of appropriate vasoconstrictor agents, that is morning, short, or traumatic and stress-free appointments are preferred for patients with diabetes. As I told you, antibiotics are not necessary for routine procedures with well-controlled diabetes. But if you are if you are treating the patient with like more than 140 mg per dl or 180, you should treat always the patient under antibiotic coverage. The combination of mechanical debridement plus systemic tetracycline provide greater positive effect on glycemic control in some diabetic patient. Now, diabetic emergencies. What all emergency or what all complications will come if the patient, while treating your patient under hypoglycemic crisis or hyperglycemic crisis. If the patient is hypoglycemic, it is more severe to manage as compared to the patient with hyperglycemic. Now, if the patient is having hypoglycemia, what is hypoglycemia? The blood glucose level falls below 60 milligram per dl. It results in hypoglycemia, which is more severe as compared to your hyperglycemia. Now, in severe hypoglycemia, it refers to fall in blood glucose level below 40 milligram percent. Now, what is responsible for hypoglycemia? Skipping or delayed food intake. If any diabetic patient comes to you, then you should ask whether the patient has done proper breakfast. Injection of too much insulin if the patient is insulin dependent. Injection of tisuline into the tissues with higher blood flow. Increase exercise level. Inability to recognize symptoms. Past history of hypoglycemia. So if the patient is hypoglycemic, you should ask all this before treating patient, because it is more severe and more, the management of hypoglycemia is difficult as compared to hyperglycemia. If it is more than, if blood report comes and if it is less than 60 milligrams per dl, you should not treat the patient. Now, signs and symptoms are the most common emergency related to diabetes mellitus in dental office, and potentially life-threatening situation that must be recognized and treated expeditiously. So, if the patient is hypoglycemic, there is increased chance of tachycardia, nausea, increased gastric mobility, hypotension, and hypothermia. Severe hypoglycemia may result in seizure or loss of consciousness. Patient may become unconscious. So this is more important. It is life-threatening condition to manage hypoglycemia. What will you do if the patient is unconscious? You will give 50 ml of 50% intravenous glucose through a large vein to avoid thrombophlebitis. As soon as the patient recovers consciousness, start oral carbohydrate. Or 5 to 10% glucose infusion. Intramuscular injection of 1 ml of glucagon may be given if hypoglycemia is insulin induced. That is, in which patients will you give 1% glucagon? If the patient is type 1 diabetic, or if it is insulin induced. If the patient does not regain consciousness in spite of the normal, then cerebral edema is likely to proceed. And such patients are treated with intravenous dexamethasone. So if the patient is unconscious while treating, if due to severe hypoglycemia, main first mode of treatment is 50 ml of 50% intravenous glucose. Immediately you should give. Now, if a patient is conscious, then 50 grams of oral carbohydrate like your normal glucose powder. So how will you prevent it? So one should always find out the cause and treat it correctly. One should always confirm with medical history if there was past history of hypoglycemia before treating the patient, if the patient is diabetic. Now this already I told you, early morning appointments are preferred. Why early morning appointments are preferred? Because levels of endogenous corticosteroids are generally higher at that time, and stressful procedures may be better tolerated. Some diabetic patient, if they are well controlled, they may be treated in the afternoon. Now it is important for the periodontist to know the medication and diet regimen before starting in the patients. Now coming to conclusion, they are more commonly encountered in the dental office. Proper patient management requires close interaction between the dentist and physician. This is very important because whenever you are treating any diabetic patient, you should first start with your medical history. That's why medical history is very important, and you should ask patient which drug he is taking. or whether the patient is insulin dependent or whether he is non-dependent or type 2 diabetic. Dentists and other oral healthcare providers should understand the diagnostic and therapeutic modalities used in dental care, and they must be comfortable with the parameters of glycemia. If the patient is diabetic, always take the blood report, fasting blood glucose, postprandial blood glucose, and HbA1c, which will provide you the history of past 3 months. Working with diabetic patients can be challenging and rewarding when open lines of communications are established and thorough patient education is attained. Yeah. So anti-diabetes day is 14th November. Any difficulty? Hello? Hello? Can you hear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, any difficulty?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Who will take the attendance?
Sir, I'll forward the attendance to.
Yeah, 1 minute, please. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Which lectures for next time? I will take CVS, atherosclerosis, right? Or any other topic which you should want to take,
So we'll discuss and let you know.
Yeah, right, fine. So if any difficulty is there, you let me know, because this is very important, diabetes and periodontal disease. Should I end the meeting now? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.